Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Smith. I'm the head of business development at Netcapital. Let's give everyone a few moments here to get settled in. All right, we'll just give everyone a few more seconds here. All righty, well, we do have a few things to go through. So before we get started, I just wanted to touch upon those few housekeeping items. As with all of our companies that we host in our webinars, Into the Box is actively fundraising on Netcapital right now. You can invest Into the Box by visiting netcapital.com and searching Into the Box if you are interested in doing so. For those who are viewing right now, I will add their investment link to the chat. There we go. Next, I want to mention that we do want this webinar to be interactive as possible. So although I added their investment link to the chat, please use the Q&A function and not the chat when asking questions. Just helps us stay a little bit more organized and streamlined throughout this process. Now, I know there are a lot of investors who are joining us now that have previously invested Into the Box, as well as many who are interested in investing and have not yet done so. We will do our best to cover both sides of the aisle, but it is my absolute pleasure to introduce co-founder and president Chris Warko and co-founder and vice president Maya Bolshov. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks to everyone who's joining us. We're really excited to go through it with you.
No, thank you both for joining us. I know how incredibly busy you are, and this is exciting because your company, although it's into the box, it is outside of the box. It's just so, it's an ingenious idea, and it's so creative. What you're creating is very new. So can you, Chris, let's start with you. Can you just give us a brief overview, 30,000 feet of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to distill it down in one line, Into the Box is creating a self-contained, fully off-grid living unit, and we are housing those in repurposed shipping containers. So this product, we're seeing several different verticals that it can be applied to. The short-term rental industry, ADUs, which if you're not familiar, stands for accessory dwelling units, as housing, and also for kind of an emergency services crisis management. We've had some amazing progress since our recent inception last August, including amazing press mentions, working right now on getting our first boxes deployed this summer. I think it's a great time for a company like this to take off. We're seeing ADUs as a whole being embraced in jurisdictions across the country. We're seeing a boom in short-term rentals and hospitality. And, we're excited to kind of bring a greener, cleaner future to those industries.
Thanks, Chris. And I know that you and Maya, with your backgrounds and a couple other members of the team that you've put together, it's an interesting group. And also, and for when I've worked with you guys, a very smart and creative group. Can you touch upon each of your backgrounds and kind of the dynamic that each of you bring?
Yeah, so Chris and we met several years ago at UCLA. We're longtime friends. And we also have a great friend of ours, Claire, who's our sustainability director. We decided to partner up on this project and combine our different backgrounds and expertise to make it happen. So Chris, I'm going to take a moment and brag about you for a moment. Chris has an amazing legal expertise. He's done legal work in real estate development projects in over 30 states. And over the course of the pandemic, he actually took a bus and converted it into a tiny off-the-grid home, which then, of course, he took across the country on a fabulous journey. So that was pretty much the impetus and inspiration for Into the Box. And then Claire, our environmental and sustainability director, she's worked with the Sierra Club on several legal cases, working towards greener renewable energy advocacy. and her background is in international development. And then myself, I'm Maya. I have a real estate and Airbnb background and expertise. I've led operations for Trust Properties USA. They're the largest probate and trust real estate brokerage in California. I'm also a California broker, and I operate my own Airbnb and PeerSpace. If you're unfamiliar with PeerSpace, I have very design forward properties, which I then rent out for film and TV. So in summary, with Chris's law background, my real estate background, and Claire's environmental background, we thought we'd be a great team to tackle the problems we're looking to address and deploy this project.
No, and I've had the pleasure of seeing that really from day one and getting to know the team. But I think it's really important because when people invest, yes, it's the company, it's the market opportunity, but they want to know, who's involved with the team. So we really appreciate the context there. Okay, so we have the overview and the team. Into the box. What problem are you guys trying to solve?
Well, I think it's, I think there's three main problems. So first being energy security and independence, second being affordable housing, and third, just kind of overhauling the hospitality industry. So, to that first point with the energy security, if we think back to Texas last year when they had that snowstorm, just the drastic effects when that utility grid went down. And for individuals whose heating cooling systems are electric, it's more than just an inconvenience. So whether it be from like a climate change based takedown or whether it be some other extenuating factor, the bottom line is there's always a vulnerability to being on our utility grids. Additionally, our traditional utility grids, they're just so slow to transition to renewable energy. So our goal is by increasing access to off-grid living, we're decentralizing that utility grid. We're allowing people to live more cleanly and hopefully, cutting out that electric bill and saving a little money in everyone's wallet too. To that second point, affordable housing, it doesn't take anyone special to realize just how crazy of a crisis that is in this country right now. We're seeing, back to 07, 08 levels in many places when it comes to affordable housing. And so with our ADU line that we're looking to drop, we're wanting to really capitalize on the amazing reception that jurisdictions all over the country, like I said, have really given to ADUs, and basically in upzoning, allowing a lot that would normally only have one single family property on it to now have an additional living unit kind of in the back or in the side, which our hope is going to increase access to affordable housing. And then kind of touching on the third one, which I think is more of a fun one, we're overhauling the hospitality industry in the sense that because our boxes are fully off-grid and they're movable, we can drop them in places where you could never build a traditional hotel. So, when you stay in one of our short-term rentals, whether it be, owned by ITB or one of our partners, you're not waking up in your hotel, getting in the car, driving 30 minutes to Yellowstone. It's, you're waking up, you're stepping out the door and you're stepping foot in the park. And I think that coupled with our apartment style amenities, full kitchens, suite style bedrooms, is just really an awesome value proposition for travelers, whether they be single, family, groups. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there as well.
Thanks, Chris. And we have a question coming in from the audience that I'd like to answer because it kind of, Chris, I think it maybe goes off to the second point that you did. So
yeah.
Maya or Chris, this one's for you. Over 60% on your offering page says over 60% of the US electricity still comes from fossil fuels. Why is that important?
Well, I mean, I think it's important from a climate change perspective. I mean, climate change is here. It's, there's no denying it. We're looking at traditional fossil fuels, oil, gas. We're looking at, trying to transition away from fracking and from these dirty industries to cleaner, renewable sources of energy. And so, right now we're able to do that with solar. We're looking at deploying wind energy through turbines in certain locations, would love to roll that technology out. But it extends beyond just power. We're looking too at water harvesting, water reclamation, and how can we essentially just be more responsible and more green with our use of utilities.
Awesome. Thanks for diving into that, Chris. So when you think about, identifying the problem and, where I think not only our country, really where the world's going, right? There's no denying about global warming. How big is the market for Into the Box? Because, all right, this is an investment opportunity for folks. Early stage, how big is the investment for your guys' company?
Sure, I can answer that. So we have multiple business lines that we are working on, short-term rentals and ADUs, namely what Chris was just alluding to. And I there's a stat that came out that for container homes, the global market size is expected to exceed 64 billion by 2025. So this is also supported on a government level. There's several ADU ordinances that have been passed in California and Florida, among several other states. And there was just an executive order by Biden. It's called the House America Initiative by HUD. It's increasing federal assistance to create more factory-built homes and raising financial incentives for ADUs. And again, we are in a housing crisis. The US is more than 3 million housing units short for would-be buyers. So it's very timely for us to bring this to the market and make it accessible to people. Another important part about the market opportunity here is the affordability factor. And also the baby boomer population, people who are aging and they're on a set strict income. It can cause a lot of anxiety with downsizing and paying for utilities. We're creating an affordable off-the-grid option. And we recognize that we have competitors. There's people who are creating, highly expensive, high-tech housing units. However, we're looking to be the option that's affordable and can help address this problem, whether you want to put the ADU in your backyard or on a lot of land. This can be really great for people or retirees who are on a fixed income and need to make their money go further.
Well, that's interesting, Mike, because I know that you've noted that the global market size for container houses is expected to reach 64 billion by 2025. So I think it's indicative very much of what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely a need for this, and it's a space that we're happy to be in and innovate.
No, it's fantastic. So, okay, we've identified a lot of key points up until now, but your business model, can you explain that and how Into the Box makes money?
Yeah, I'll take that one. What I think is really cool about Into the Box from an investment standpoint is when you look at our go-to-market strategy for the different business lines, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's ADUs, whether it's government contracts for crisis management, it's the same underlying base product. The box that is being built, regardless of which line it goes to, it's the same box. So, when we're looking at business model, we've got the short-term rental line where another really, I think, innovative thing we're doing to cut costs and make this a less capital-intensive business is doing landowner partnerships. So rather than buying land in all these national parks, we are teaming up with individuals who already own land there and doing a profit share. And in many cases, those landowners are actually shouldering the upfront cost of the box for us. And then, of course, that passive income through those rentals provides a nice steady return. With our ADU line, business model is very much direct to consumer right now. We're not discriminating on the type of consumer. It doesn't matter whether you are wanting to move into it for yourself, for an aging parent, a post-college boomerang kid, or frankly, if you want to rent it as a short-term rental, we're not going to stop you. So, in that sense, there's, I think, a ton of opportunity there with our direct sales. And then, of course, that other business model being kind of the government contract route. But, again, what I really want to emphasize is really we're driving down the capital intensivity of what is historically a very capital intensive business. And I think one other huge opportunity for us is the licensing of intellectual property. We're not asking ourselves, what is the state of the housing industry today? I think, if you're on this webinar, you're probably aware that we are not alone in the ADU space. We have plenty of competitors. But what we're looking at is what's that industry going to look like in 5 years? And so how do we get ahead of that? How do we secure that intellectual property on the off-grid component such that we can then license that to, larger home builders as off-grid technology really takes off in the coming years?
Thanks, Chris. And thinking about, okay, I want to, stay at and into the box. Can you talk about your different tiers of rentals, anywhere from, you say, short term, long term, like can it be a day? Can it be a week? Can it be a month? Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can take that. View it like an Airbnb or a VRBO. Absolutely, we can accommodate short-term stays, long-term stays. I think just today we had a question about, are we pet friendly? And our response was, why not? I think that's very much our philosophy. And one reason I love working with Maya is, and Claire as well, we're all very much of the mindset of, let's not start from what's the least we can or have to do, but let's figure out what's the most that we can offer and work from that end. So yeah, very flexible with rental length, with types of locations. We'd love to do some sort of subscription service down the line. That's something we've talked about. That probably wouldn't come for a couple of years, but definitely a lot of flexibility there.
That's great. And Chris and Maya, in terms of competitors in the space, some differentiators from you from the competitors. Can you touch upon that? I know we don't want to disclose everything, but why into the box? Because you keep alluding to competitors. There are competitors in the space. What makes you different?
Sure. So number one, and I touched on this a little bit, but it's the affordability factor. We're upcycling shipping containers, and we're looking to make this something that's accessible and addressing the housing shortage. Most of our competitors they could be upwards of 50% more than our pricing for an ADU model. And in terms of the short-term rental, we have a very competitive nightly rate on average. For a very unique experience, you're going off the grid, you're in a beautiful design forward space, and that adds a lot of value. And in addition to that, there is room for a lot of competition in this space. We do have competitors. There's, like I mentioned, 3 million housing units that are on shortage, and it's just a proof of concept. Most of the people who you can now order some kind of prefab home from, their houses are on back order. It's taking months and months to get it. So we're emerging in this space, and we're building a brand that has a sustainability focus. We really care that we're addressing this issue environmentally. We're also addressing the housing crisis and want to make affordability a main priority of ours. And then for our short-term rental line, we really do have a fantastic design focus. I'm partnering with different designers to make each box have its own vision come to life and make it a truly unique stay, which we find a lot of our competitors are lacking.
Also, I'm just going to piggyback off that. When it comes to our ADU line, I would challenge anyone looking at our competitors to ask yourself, not just the cost of the unit, but the cost of install. When you go through one of our competitors, you are very much, it's on you to make sure your utilities are to the site. And so if you live in a rural location, or if you, bought land on speculation, for whatever reason, if you don't have utilities to your lot, you could easily be looking at tens of thousands of dollars just in site prep costs with our competitor, that if you go full off grid with us, jurisdictional regulations approved, you don't have to pay all that. So I think it's important to recognize too, that within that competitive pricing is also a much lower upfront cost in terms of site prep and utility prep.
Got it. I think that's really important to both the points you made. So thank you for sharing that with us. Question from one of our attendees about accessibility. Will some of the units be designed to be wheelchair accessible for users like me?
I'll take it. So, we want this, we acknowledge that a big contingent of our user base are elderly or disabled. Our concern with wheelchairs is, let's be honest, we're working in a shipping container that's less than 8 feet wide. So some of our models, unfortunately, it's the door width. It's, when you're working in a 7.5 foot wide space and you've got to fit all this, Unfortunately, we're not able to guarantee in our 1 and 2 bedroom models that. In our studio model, absolutely. And to that end, definitely doing single level living, obviously no stairs, easy to do. We can do like flat on grade roll in, roll out shower, if that's appealing. And I'm excited personally to explore how we can be even more accessible in our design. I don't know about you, Maya, but my thought process on that is very much, let's work together and help us make a better product. Absolutely. Let's do it to the extent we can. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I think that's great, Chris, because a little bit, as you know about my background, we do with the nonprofit, we do help folks with paralysis. So I think, and having had my injuries myself, it's easier said than done, right? Because when you're working with certain parameters, I just know that from living in New England and a lot of things being not wheelchair accessible. But if you have the opportunity with the larger shipping containers and the fact that you are making them, I think that's the most important piece, right? Because obviously with certain parameters you're limited, but when you have the opportunity, you guys are doing it. And it's music personally to my ears, as well as I'm sure to the attendees, because it sounds like we both have had a similar situation. So that's fantastic. And I love that you guys are already thinking about that.
Yeah, it's a very high priority for us that we have the retrofits in place, whether it's the handrails or the countertops at the right level, so that we can accommodate people who have disabilities.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so great. And you guys are providing obviously that out of the box experience into the box. So for obviously folks in wheelchairs, it's important for them to get out too. So fantastic. Can you talk about a little bit last year? I know it was a big year. And since we've been working together, and I know we've been talking for quite some time before we even onboarded. So really getting an understanding of your guys' vision. Talk about some of the exciting things that happened in 2021, and then I'll tee that up with where we're going this year. But with what happened last year for the company.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. During 2021, we made some great partnerships with landowners, designers, engineers, building basically a team that's going to serve us and make sure we handle all aspects of the business. And we partnered up with a particular owner in Joshua Tree, which I'm excited to announce. We're building our first short-term rental there. And we're currently going through the zoning and permitting process for those and going through the approvals. So it's been a great process, and frankly, learning as well as we create this first short-term rental that we want to scale. And then in terms of ADUs, we are excited to announce we're building our first ADU model box in Florida, which will be the blueprint for the ones that go national. And we're also currently lining up our first ADU early access adopters in Florida, because that's where we're building them out. And we have a great ADU wait list that came about in the past few months. We have people from over 20 states, from Miami to Seattle. And something interesting that we learned is that the demand is heavily in the southeast region of the country, where our headquarters are based. And most of the tech forward ADU type startups, they're on the West Coast, they're in Silicon Valley. And our research was showing that they're only serving those surrounding regions on the West Coast. So we're excited that we have a demand, and we can build for people in the Southeast region and all over the country. And something else that was very exciting that happened recently is we got press coverage for our vision on Forbes, on Market Watch, PBS, Bigger Pockets. And we got a lot of people believing in our vision and the product we're in the process of building. And in addition to that, we've done our off-grid prototyping, and we're getting our plans approved as a prefab build in California and Florida, so that the scaling process is easier and the permitting process. And then we're getting the prefab approval state by state. So that is applicable both to the short-term rental line that we've been working on and the ADU line.
It's exciting. So Maya, I'm going to come back with, and I guess this is a question for both of you. Amazing progress so far. This year's been, I think, from a traction standpoint, very fruitful for Into the Box. What are you most excited about between now and the end of the year?
I'll go first. Uh, you know, First off, every day I get to wake up and work on this project. I'm super excited. Remember that a year ago today, Into the Box did not exist. We are shockingly new, being incorporated less than a year ago, and making this much progress has been phenomenal already. Uh, Quite frankly, we have Netcapital to thank largely for being able to broadcast our vision out to so many people, but also I'm really excited to be able to provide this opportunity to anyone who wants to kind of get in on the friends and family level. When you look at, I know some of our competitors, one in particular is also doing an equity raise right now. And, you look at where we're at in the process and the ability to bring individuals on board who believe in our vision this early is so exciting. I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of our investors personally. I learn from every single call something new about the business. So I'm excited to just continue those partnerships, learn as much as I can from our Netcapital family, and get these first boxes deployed. And then I think from a business standpoint, it's getting that intellectual property secured.
Yep. And there's more and more people reaching out to us every day who believe in the product, and they're going on our wait list, and they're excited for the ADUs or to stay in our Airbnbs. And we're really passionate about making this happen and doing it well. And we're very grateful to the investors that also believe in our vision and are helping us get our first ones deployed so that we can do it at scale and make it nationally available.
Oh, thank you both for answering that. So, talking about deployment, we received a couple questions from a few attendees. Obviously, things can happen, but if things go according to plan, what would be an ideal situation for Into the Box to start the deployment of your containers?
So, in terms of our short-term rental line, we're hoping to get our first Joshua Tree box up and running by end of the summer. Right now we're dealing with a little bit of legal regulation with San Bernardino County, which I think, to be fair to us, every time we go into a new jurisdiction, it's slightly different rules to play by. That's going to be a bit of a learning curve. But hopefully the first rental boxes will be live by the end of the summer. And then in terms of the ADUs, right now we're projecting next fall 2023 for those to drop. But as Maya mentioned, we are offering early access to some of our Florida wait lists to hopefully get some of those a little bit sooner, which, if we can do that, would be really rewarding to see people able to live in these units.
That's great. So, Chris, the idea is, if it sounds that Florida is going to be the state.
So, great question. What we're wanting to do at this point, and I think our go forward strategy is we're trying to get our plans approved at a state level as prefab, right? Because when you're prefab or modular approved, every build you can really bypass a lot of the inspection and permitting and regulation. It's a much more streamlined process. So, you ask yourself, well, how hard is it to drop the container? Not very, but it's not about the one container, right? It's about setting us up so that we can produce these in volume. And so my thought is that's going to mean getting that prefab approval state by state. As Maya said, most of our demand is in the Southeast, which is, of course, where we're based. We've got, I would say, West Coast, Pacific Northwest is a close second. So if I were a betting man, which I can be, I would say probably Florida first, definitely. And then, maybe look to the West Coast for a second, third state.
Oh, that's extremely exciting. And when you think about going into 2023, we're talking about scalability, just the shift in the marketplace. Myself and my girlfriend, looking to buy a home, things like that over the past, 2 years, and just that whole, what really going into, we talked about this year, but where you see Into the Box this time next year?
Yeah, I see us being able to fulfill our ADU wait list and have a facility, like I've been mentioning, that we can scale and build these out with our prefab approval. That way it's a seamless, easy transition to put these in your backyards, or if we're doing our short-term rental line, to deploy them around the national parks. So by next year, we want to have a seamless and very lean operation to not only build these, but help our investors and customers put these in their own yards or land that they have and make it a seamless process.
That's great. That's exciting. And so we had a question come in about partnerships, and I think that kind of goes to where the company's headed and where you hope to be by the end of this year and next year. Airbnb and things like that. Once your units get deployed and are in certain areas of the country, do you have any interest in partnering with these larger distributors, getting it out there where I could go on Airbnb and if the unit's open, I can stay in it for a couple nights? Like, and is the vision there to go kind of on that more spread out and mainstream route?
Yeah, when it comes to the short-term rental line, absolutely. In fact, I would argue that it's crucial that we begin that partnership and begin our rentals with Airbnb, VRBO, those middleman sites. Airbnb is exciting because, don't quote me on this, but for the first time in close to 10 years, they've done a major overhaul of their website and have, I don't know if anyone's been on there lately, but you can now choose your type of stay. And some of the categories are off-grid stays and shipping container stays. So that's exciting for us to see from a partnership standpoint. Definitely wanting to take advantage of that. And then, down the line, offer direct bookings on those. But, when you think about our business model from the short-term rental standpoint, we look at some of our competitors who are also developing, kind of off-griddy short-term rental stays. But what they're doing is what I call the trailer park approach, where they buy up a few acres somewhere in nowhere, Tennessee, and drop 10 of them in a line. Our philosophy is that's not a dispersed experience. That's not improving the hospitality industry. So, with an ITV box, you're out there, like it or not. You're not looking out your window into the next guy. And so I think when we're doing something dispersed like that, it's absolutely crucial to form those partnerships and utilize those third-party services to our full potential.
Yeah, and booking direct will still be available, but we want to make sure that we're maximizing the exposure of our beautiful boxes and that they reach the biggest audience possible. We know a lot of people were cooped up during the pandemic, and now they're looking for that unique off-the-grid experience. And the travel industry has just been accelerating since. It's like we've been pent up, and now we all got to go outside and do something in nature.
Speak for myself, I'm right there. So I can't wait till your boxes get deployed, because I will certainly be a customer and cannot wait to have the experience. Another question came in, I think I know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it just from a liability standpoint and insurance. Insurance into the box will have that as a not homeowners insurance, but in terms of coverage for folks who stay in the remote locations and things like that.
Yeah, I can take that. Again, so this is one of those questions where it will vary a little bit depending on product line. So with the short-term rental line, we are currently in talks with Maya's formed an amazing partnership with an insurance company who's looking at doing dynamic insurance pricing for our rentals, meaning, we're only paying the insurance the nights they're occupied. That's going to allow us to cut costs and operate even more leanly. From an ADU standpoint, in terms of insurance, this I think also touches on financing, which I know is also a question a lot of people have. Seeing such an uptick in ADUs, we're also seeing an uptick in traditional residential support services, insurance, mortgage, financing, are now flocking to off-grid tiny home ADU. There are companies now where you can get a shipping container mortgage. You couldn't do that 5 years ago. And same thing with insurance. So, I'm by no means an insurance representative. I can't quote prices, but I would definitely imagine that our boxes being prefab, being pretty low cost to execute, would be a pretty good deal from an insurance standpoint too, if you were to live in it full time.
Got it. Great answer, Chris, and thank you for providing more context with that. One of our attendees looks like they're from Europe, and wondering, will you market and book for international folks?
Yeah, absolutely. To start, our focus is, like we've been mentioning, we're trying to get prefab approved in the States and make this a national product here. You have access in Europe, I'm sure, to Airbnb and vice versa. I've booked for Europe and you here, and directly booking with us as well. Of course, it will be open to you to book here. We'd love to have the international community stay with us and enjoy the off the grid experience. And then moving forward, I mean, Chris and I think we have some dreams of making this even an international thing. It is a shipping container after all. There's no reason why one couldn't be shipped overseas.
Absolutely. Just last week, we had a gentleman email us from Puerto Rico who wanted to know if he could buy and we would ship. And again, kind of going back to what I said, we don't operate from what's the least we can do. We operate from what's the most we can do. And so we said, we'll do our best. We'll help you arrange it. And we're very open to that because like Maya said, shipping containers are shockingly designed to be shipped.
No, and I think the scalability for this, Maya and Chris, I mean, you can, in theory, send this all over the world. It's obviously going to vary in terms of distance, but I think the scalability it's going to be exciting. I'm personally excited to see where the co-founders Maya and Chris can take into the box. And I know we're getting close to ending our time here. So thinking about, okay, time to invest. Why is, if I'm thinking about investing into the box, folks that are on attending now and then they're going to see this in the future, why is the time now to invest into the box? And Maya, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so Chris, you talked about this lightly, but you are being one of the first investors in our vision, in our deployment. You're getting in at a great time. There's a huge demand for ADUs. There's a huge demand for the short-term rentals, and there's other business lines and products that we're going to be deploying down the line. Just to touch on it briefly, emergencies, housing, student housing. There's so many ways that this business model can be applicable to, and we just want to make sure that our investors know we're looking for the best return for you and let you know that you're part of a company that cares and has a mission of being sustainable, of being affordable and accessible, and also having a great design vision. So we feel very confident that we're going to grow this to be national in scale, and we'd love for you guys to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And, I would just add to that, keep in mind one thing that's really nice about us, and maybe it's the lawyer in me talking, but from a risk management perspective, having different business lines, right? Being able to work in the short-term rental industry, in the ADU industry, in the emergency service, or even student housing, as Maya touched on. As the economy fluctuates over the coming years, being able to kind of ebb and flow with those different industries, I think is going to provide a lot of flexibility for Into the Box. And kind of tying into from, I'd say a potential exit strategy standpoint, this management team, we're in it for the long haul. We would love to see the short-term rental line really operated as a portfolio where we're able to, distribute returns as dividends to investors. I mentioned earlier the intellectual property standpoint. I challenge you to really ask yourself how many different applications off-grid could be applied to, and it just isn't. I think we're on the precipice of it because that technology exists today where it didn't exist 5 or even 3 years ago to this extent. So for me, from an investment standpoint, it's looking at that, and then it's looking at truly being able to get in on the ground level, friends and family, which again is only possible thanks to Netcapital. Ask yourself, how much equity per dollar are you getting with us versus some of our competitors? And I think you'll realize it's a really exciting opportunity.
Well, thank you both for answering that. And we just had another quick question come in, but pets. And you said, yes, pets are fine?
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
We're animal lovers.
No, I knew that. I just wanted to announce it to the group because we had an attendee come in after you stated that before. So that's great. Chris and Maya, we have enjoyed our time together working with you for several months now at Netcapital. You two are just you're so much fun to work with, but you're really just smart, great entrepreneurs and people. So just thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to what we can continue to do together. And to reiterate to everyone, right now, Into the Box is raising live on Netcapital. You can go to netcapital.com and search Into the Box to invest today if you wish to do so. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And like I said, we're really looking forward to continuing to build your company with you, and looking forward to all the exciting things that are to come to Into the Box. Maya and Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you
so
guys
much.
for coming and joining us.
Yes, thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.